books, but this will be independent of a book.
Okay.
Okay, I will say also, so this screen is from my camera. It's pointing at our blackboard, which will hopefully become a whiteboard eventually. I will share screen if I may receive access for share screening.
Working on it.
Thank you. And then we'll also have the presentation.
Matani, I have a whiteboard I could donate to the synagogue. It is too big to fit in my car. So I would need somebody, with a truck or something like that to take it.
Yes, sir. No, we can arrange. Thank you very much. Thank you
Yeah,
for
no,
your generosity.
I do have that available, so we just need to, get it to the synagogue, and I don't want to walk. Carrying it.
Let's talk about outside the class and we'll work it out.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah, it's a big whiteboard. It should work perfectly for you. And I'm happy to
Thank you, I
donate it to
appreciate
the
it.
synagogue.
I'm not covering it.
Holy cow, I did not expect. Oh.
Hey, one for you and your wife.
Hello, sir.
Like, you won't be online tonight.
Lucky, how lucky are we?
Thank you, sir. I got you.
Max, that's your cue to help.
Sorry to be late.
No.
No worries, sir. Thank you for coming.
I was down here at 6 o'clock. For some reason. I thought it was 6.
Thank you for coming, sir. Hope you'll enjoy it.
I'll get it. Go ahead and sit down and I'll get it.
Hello, sir. Good evening.
How are you, bud? I'm doing good. Doing all right. Good to see you. All right. Yeah, you got it. Save it for you. Yeah. Sure, we'll go with that.
Hello, sir. Good to see you. Thank you for coming.
Yes.
Everyone has a Hebrew alphabet laminated and less than one worksheet, right? I do have spares here if anyone's missing. Okay, so right now your screen is shared.
My screen is being shared. Trying to get it so that your screen is shared.
It tells me host disabled participant. Screen sharing.
Well,
Good evening.
let's try this.
Sorry, we need more. Good thing you said that, huh?
Try sharing your screen.
Max, try helping people find a spot. If you need to forfeit yours.
Yeah.
Good evening, sir. Good to see you. So yeah, we're probably gonna need more tables and chairs next time. That's good.
So this is like a trial and error.
Yeah.
Huh?
Perfect.
Okay, well,
That's life, man.
there's another seat here, brother.
I'm back.
Okay, no worries. Thank you. Okay, well, it is 7. So if everything's okay on the technical part, Jason, I think we're good to go.
So what I'm seeing is the preview slide and the other slide, not the whole screen.
Is that what you're seeing, Dave? Too, this screen? The next slide, no notes.
Yeah, I'm seeing everything. It's all good.
Okay,
The Hebrew for Beginners Class Pilot, Mount Sinai Congregation. And next to it, I mean, I don't think I can, yeah, I can move the pictures. Yeah, I can see the concept, the syllabus aims for A1 level of Hebrew, and so on.
okay. And do you see, Dave, can you see the blackboard behind me?
No. Oh, yeah, I can. But because of the screen share, you're very small.
Okay, so I'm gonna probably have to intermittently pause it.
Yeah, the screen share will make
Mhm.
everything else.
I think you just can adjust it though, right? Between.
Well, we'll figure it out. I'll meddle with the Zoom later. Yeah, I think I know actually. That probably shows the concept. Next slide, yeah. So just for the sake of the presentation, let's leave it at that right now, so we can start. And as everyone can see, this is a pilot class, so we're learning more and more as to how to do things, both on the technical part and hopefully on the academic part. Hello, Rabbi, good evening.
Oh, sorry. Late night. What are you doing here, man?
Okay, so with your permission, I am gonna start. Whoever joins, Max, please help them find a seat, okay?
Pass me some more copies, sir.
So then you don't have to be interrupted.
Thank you. Oops, wait, that first one is mine? This one. This one. Give me my- Good evening, ma'am. Max, help her find a seat. Okay, this is my last copy. If we need more, I'll make more later.
Oh, no, I'm not really.
You, Joe? I remember you from the other.
Okay, ma'am, you have your Hebrew helper laminated. Okay, awesome. Thank you for coming. Thank you all for coming. I am going to start now. I'm very excited. This has been a long time coming for those of you who have been on it. But yeah, welcome for the Hebrew for Beginners class pilot of Mount Sinai Congregation.
If you say shit, okay, on
Yeah, I know. Here's the thing. This is a different class from probably all of the other classes out there. The reason for that is because I wanted it to be practical. Hebrew you can use today in Israel. So in that essence, and for that goal, I had to strip a lot of stuff I deemed as confusing and stuff that will be more productive for further learning into the future. This is aimed into giving a very good basic. The first few lessons are today and the next lesson will be for Aleph, Bet, and vowels. I believe in being very thorough. If you can look at your worksheets, they're for home, but the first few ones are actually practicing reading and writing. There's a lot of value to actually doing it with your own hand. There's an image there with arrows as to how to do it. And the Hebrew helper, the laminated page, those two and further worksheets will come hand in hand. The reason for that is because in the beginning, we have to be a little bit of detectives, let's call it. And the reason for that is, in the beginning, we'll go word by letter by letter, vowel by vowel. Look at our helper. Okay, this is this is that. Put it together, it means that. This is a method I found that works both with my son and others. So hopefully we'll get to that. The syllabus, which I'll get to in a second, is aimed at what Israel acknowledges as a level A1 for beginners. Here's the thing though, an academic level A1. Good evening, man. Good to see you. Ma'am, there's a seat here. So a level A1 academic Hebrew for beginners is 4 hours a week. and it's a full semesterial class. We obviously cannot do that, so we're gonna be triumphant with what we do have. No, no, I think we're good. Is anyone having trouble seeing the projector? I think it's okay, right?
Yeah.
So as you can see, Tuesdays, same as the rabbis, class 7 to 8:30 here. My aspiration is to do it here as much as possible. As much as possible. I do believe that being here so I can see what you're doing, I can address what you're having a problem with, you can see the movement of my hands. I see more value in that. However, we live in a snowy state, and I got a job, so for those, we may have to go to Zoom. I will be informing beforehand via email. I have all of your emails and phone numbers, so we'll make sure everyone knows what we're doing. What I'll be using is class presentations, as you can see, worksheets, music, Kahoot, hopefully today, probably next class. My hope is to start some form of WhatsApp group so I can send daily Hebrew. I know not all people want to do that, so might just be email. If someone does favor that, let me know. I'll get it started right away. I'm continuing. So here's our syllabus, and I will send this and all of our class presentations via email for everyone. Today and next class, we have the Hebrew alphabet and historical background. I'll get to that in a second. But as you can see, we have stuff like music analyzing, stuff that are really aimed at using in Israel. That was my guiding principle. I do believe and feel very confident that hopefully in the future, when we have a congregational trip to Israel, you'll all surprise even me by how good you got. I am continuing. This is an example to how I'm going to do things. I'm going to try to do it in a way that's divided in three. One is the translation on the far left, middle is the transliteration, and then there's the Hebrew. Here's a caveat on this. The translation, I actually thought about adding another rubric, which meant literal translation. I decided inevitably to forego with it because, yeah, there's too much. I want this to be as simple as possible so people understand as simply as possible. But here's an anecdote. We speak in notions, just like in English. You'd be surprised how many notions and slang we invoke on our day-to-day here. The same goes for Hebrew. And while a word may have a literal meaning, that's one thing, we will understand it as something else. An example off the top of my head is the word shirutim. Shirutim, I'll write it down. Shirutim literally means services. Shirutim literally means services.
Are you gonna go to the camera?
No, I'm just gonna write it down and then move away. Transliterated, it's like this. Sheru. Team. And I'm exaggerating it on purpose so you'll be able to hear the sound better. The word shirutim literally means services. An Israeli will understand it as bathroom. Where's the bathroom? Ifa shirutim. It's right there. So this is an example. It's not as frequent as you think and not as daunting as you think. It's important to keep it in mind. Next, do you mind cleaning it out, the board? Thank you.
Yeah. It's.
Oh, you are ready? Okay, so don't.
Nobody on Zoom can
Good.
see what you wrote, Matani.
Okay, so I'll stop share. And whoever's, I don't know if Dave Lucero is looking, can you now see it through my speaker view?
Yeah, here.
Yeah, I see it.
Okay, is it up backwards, Jason? Like it was?
No, it's proper.
Okay, awesome. So Shirutim, Dave Lucero, you can see it in transliteration below. It literally means services, but we will understand it as bathroom. But depending on context, it will interchange back to services. Eh. So Dave Lucero, if you were, I don't know if you're writing it down, I do want to go back to screen sharing. Let me know if you were.
Yeah, you're good.
Thank you. I'm gonna go back to my screen sharing. So again, I decided not to go with that extra rubric. Less is more, I felt in this sense. I am continuing. Today's lesson is very important, I actually do believe. Most Hebrew classes begin from the alphabet. Now I am gonna start it hopefully today. You can see it, right, sir? You can see it? Now, I will get to Aleph Bet today and next week, but the thing is that the history of it is crucial. It's crucial to understand why it is the way that it is. We have a lot of irregulars. We have a lot of foreign influences. So it's important to know that coming in, because if you don't, later on it gets frustrating. Okay, why is this when we just learned that the last lesson that the grammatic rule says this? Answer is that it's an irregular. And I'm trying to avoid those as much as possible. But yeah, we are gonna have to touch those. One example is chair, the word chair. The word chair is kiseh. It conjugates differently from other words because it comes from Aramaic. And we have many examples of that. So I'm continuing. We have this video. I'm gonna switch to the video. And we did check the sound. It should be good. I do request that we stay silent to make it more effective.
Let's go back, like way back. In the Bible, the Jews, otherwise known as Hebrews, spoke an ancient, well, more biblical version of Hebrew. Biblical Hebrew remained the native tongue of Jews for over 1,000 years. But Hebrew, as a spoken language, began to die out around the year 7. That's the year the Romans destroyed the second Jewish temple in Jerusalem and exiled a vast number of Jewish people from Israel. And Hebrew, as a spoken language, really kicked the bucket about 65 years later in 135 after the failure of the Bar Kokhba revolt. Roman Emperor Hadrian expelled, enslaved, or killed most of Israel's remaining Jews, the final native Hebrews. So that should have been the end of Hebrew, right? Well, no. Hebrew as a spoken language was dead, but the few Jews left in Israel continued using Hebrew in the study of Torah. But, and this is key, they only used it as a written literary language. According to Lewis Glinner, in his book, The Story of Hebrew, reading Hebrew became a sort of spiritual resistance by Jews against the Roman oppressors. By the turn of the 2nd century, Aramaic had become the commonly used language of the Middle East, but Hebrew as a written language for Torah study still persisted. And at the turn of the 3rd century, Rabbi Judah the Prince, then the leader of the small remaining Israeli Jewish community, was determined to give written Hebrew an even better shot at survival. He decided that he would exclusively use Hebrew in his editing of the Mishnah, the compilation of Jewish law, and the basis for the Talmud. His very deliberate choice to codify Hebrew as the language of the Mishnah kept written Hebrew alive. But by the 6th century, Hebrew's use for Torah study was very limited. This is when the Talmud, the encyclopedic work forming the basis of all Jewish law, was composed. It was a whopping 5,400 or so pages in mostly Aramaic. Still, though, Hebrew held on. Medieval scholars wrote their commentaries on the Bible and Talmud, from Rabbi Shlomo Yitzhaki or Rashi in France to Rabbi Abraham ibn Ezra in Spain. Maimonides, the 12th century leader of the Jewish community in Egypt, wrote his Mishnah Torah, or Code of Law, Hebrew, covering every detail of Jewish observance. Okay, we've got the ancient and medieval history covered, so it's time to talk about Eliezer ben Yehuda, who resurrected Hebrew as a spoken language in its modern form, right? Not so fast. The revival of Hebrew as a modern language actually started well before his time, with one period often overlooked. The 18th century saw the Age of Enlightenment, during which the study of language rose in popularity, and Hebrew is no exception. In fact, many Christians obsessed over Hebrew.
regarding it as a classical language akin to Latin, as you can see from some of the emblems of Ivy League schools. Some of America's founders were well-versed in Hebrew as well, James Madison and Alexander Hamilton chief among them.
Dr. Drew and my wife Susan here.
Sorry.
I want to show you something.
I will take this opportunity to ask,
Body fat looks. In
Dave,
1783,
Dave Lucero, can you hear the video?
Yeah, I can hear it good. It's all coming in real good.
Awesome, thank you.
intellectuals, part of the Jewish Enlightenment movement known as the Haskalah, started a Hebrew language periodical called Hameasef. Their goal was to spread the language and demonstrate its beauty. By publishing Hebrew language newspapers distributed to tens of thousands, they furthered a new Hebrew style closely tied to the vernacular and very different from old school rabbinic. So while this new Hebrew 2.0 was still mainly literary, it was now used to write about all sorts of mundane things, not just the Bible. Okay, enough about reading and writing Hebrew. When and how did Hebrew actually become a spoken language? Well, in the late 19th century, the Zionist movement began to take shape, and amongst cultural Zionists, as opposed to Theodor Herzl's more political Zionism, Hebrew was a way to return to their ancient Jewish roots. But modern Hebrew still faced some major hurdles. One of them was Yiddish. Yiddish wasn't just the spoken language of most European Jews. It was their mother tongue, their way of life. Hebrew pioneers themselves didn't start off speaking Hebrew. Imagine these Yiddish speakers struggling to use a language in their daily life that must have sounded terribly formal and stilted. It'd be like trying to order pizza in Latin, and there were more.
We still hear that, by the way, to this day. Yeah. Yes, Rabbi?
More than a fair share of Zionist leaders who didn't have much faith in the resurrection of Hebrew. Moshe Lilienblum, a pre-Herzl Zionist leader, actually said Hebrew's time was up. Herzl himself even thought German was the natural choice for Zionism. After all, he said, who knows enough Hebrew to buy a train ticket? And of course, there were the Ashkenazi Orthodox Jews, many of them Hasidim, who still held firm in their belief that Hebrew should only be used for holy topics like Torah study and prayer. Even more so, now that modern Hebrew had become associated with secularism, Zionism, things they were not huge fans of. So, all in all, the opportunity to revive spoken Hebrew seemed quite slim. And then there's Eliezer ben Yehuda. Born Eliezer Yitzhak Perelman, he believed the future of the Jews required both their own land and their own language. And Hebrew was the way to unite Jews across the globe. Eliezer's obsession with Hebrew started as a child in Europe. His yeshiva teacher secretly introduced him to secular Hebrew literature, such as the works of Achad Ha'am, a leader of the cultural Zionist movement we spoke about earlier. Eliezer also discovered that in rare cases, when two Jewish communities that spoke different languages, say Yiddish and Arabic, needed to correspond with each other, they would sometimes use a form of medieval Hebrew as a common language. This strengthened his resolve, and in 1881, he packed his bags and made the trek to Palestine. Adopting the biblical-sounding name Eliezer ben Yehuda, he and his wife established the world's first strictly speaking Hebrew household in almost 2,000 years, and soon produced the world's first native Hebrew speaker in almost 2,000 years, their son, Ben Zion. Now, it's easy to criticize how Ben Yehuda raised Ben Zion in a home that spoke a language no one else was using, but sometimes it takes a little bit of crazy to create profound change. The experiment got off to a rough start. By the age of 4, Ben Zion still wasn't talking, and Ben Yehuda was so obsessed with proving that Hebrew could exist as a modern daily language, he actually prevented Ben Zion from playing with other kids to avoid any corruption of his Hebrew. Ben Zion later wrote that his father wouldn't let him listen to the chirping of birds or the neighing of horses, since they didn't do it in Hebrew. Maybe an exaggeration, but Ben Yehuda wasn't messing around. Ben Yehuda's friends and colleagues were telling him to give up, but suddenly the kid's first word finally came, Abba, Daddy. Ben Yehuda wrote in his diary that there was now no room for doubt that Hebrew could become the spoken language of a community. But how do you make this change happen? Ben Yehuda believed the key was to use it as the language of instruction in schools. Hebrew wouldn't just be a subject studied, it would be the language used to teach all other subjects, like math and history. The first all-Hebrew elementary school was founded in 1899. Within 10 years, the number of all-Hebrew schools grew to 20, with 2,500 students. Ben Yehuda argued that Hebrew would become a living language by moving from the schools into the home, and his work convinced many secular nationalist Jews the same thing. In 1890, Ben Yehuda founded the Vad HaLashon, or the Language Council, which still exists to this day as the Academy of the Hebrew Language.
Rabbi. So one anecdote about this, Hebrew is a discipline of study in Israel with a special academy dedicated to it. They have facilities, you can go there, study. A lot of the teacher certifications actually go through the Academy of the Hebrew Language, or in Hebrew, the Academy of the Hebrew Tongue. This is what it's written on that building there. I'm continuing.
Council published bulletins, dictionaries, coining thousands of words you don't find in the Torah, like doll, ice cream, bicycle. Not everywhere he invented caught on, but Ben Yehuda took it upon himself to keep the language growing. Like we mentioned earlier, Theodor Herzl, the founder of political Zionism, initially preferred German to Hebrew as the language for Israel. But he soon reversed his position, even embracing Hebrew while embarrassed that he could not speak it. After his death, the Zionist Congress officially declared Hebrew the language of Zionism. The language spread through schools and homes in Israel and developed through trial and error, but Eliezer Ben Yehuda had achieved his goal. Shortly before Ben Yehuda died in 1922, Britain officially recognized Hebrew as the language of Palestine's Jewish inhabitants. 26 years later, Israel became an official Hebrew-speaking state. But just like the story didn't begin with Ben Yehuda, it certainly doesn't end there either. He became the face of the movement, but there was still a lot of work to be done. While Ben Yehuda invented about 150 words, his son Ben-Zion and others came up with thousands more. In fact, the first Hebrew dictionary wasn't completed until 1959, 11 years after Israel was founded. And just think about the fields of medicine, science, and law. Entire dictionaries needed to be written to cover new concepts that hadn't even existed when the Bible was written. Men like Dr. Aaron Meir Mazia took on the task of advising Ben Yehuda during his life and continued his work after his death. By the time of Israel's establishment, over 90% of Israeli kids under 15 were already fluent in Hebrew, with refugees pouring in from all over the world at that time. The need for a common language was front and center. Hebrew was still battling Yiddish as a popular language, but many in Israel's booming immigrant population considered Yiddish a language of exile and a reminder of things they'd rather forget. With the new state founded, Israeli leaders wanted to cement an Israeli identity, and they knew Hebrew was a key ingredient needed to bond them all together. Ben-Gurion went so far as suppressing Yiddish from being used in any public role, using a well-organized political system to force Hebrew usage through its comprehensive services to the immigrant masses. Schools were in Hebrew, youth movements were in Hebrew, compulsory military service was in Hebrew, political leaders Hebraicized their names. David Bruin became David Ben-Gurion, Golda Meyerson became Golda Meir, and thus Hebrew as a language finally won. So it would seem like Eliezer Ben Yehuda was responsible in many ways for reviving and modernizing Hebrew. But it took an entire people over many centuries to ensure that he would be able to accomplish this feat. So while we usually credit Ben Yehuda with single-handedly bringing Hebrew back to life, it's really more complicated. As Zionist leader Menachem Usishkin later said of Ben Yehuda, people needed a hero, so we gave them one. Still, it was Ben Yehuda who steered the language past the array of obstacles facing it in the 19th and early 20th centuries. Remember, not everyone wanted it to succeed. If Herzl had his way initially, Israelis would be speaking German. Doesn't sound right, does it? So, can your average American teenager read and understand a 300-year-old English manuscript without help? Unlikely. But any Hebrew speaker can open up a 3,000-year-old Hebrew text, make sense of it, religious or not. Hebrew's rebirth returned a common language to an ancient people, and its revival also helped lead to the miracle of Israel.
So I'm going to stop it here. This has been long, but yeah, it has been a miracle. It has been a miracle. I want to also point out my own grandfather and grandma. When they came to Israel, they were Guido and Graziella, and later on became Gideon and Ziva. On my mother's side, my grandparents who immigrated from Morocco, my grandma, may she live many more years, she was Masouda, and my grandfather was Solomon, and that changed to Shlomo and Oshrat. And my grandparents were adamant, we are not talking Italian. We're not speaking Italian. We are speaking Hebrew. My dad and my uncles did take in a little bit, because when they wanted to hide something, they'll speak Italian between themselves. But yeah, Hebrew was put on a pedestal. It was seen as very patriotic, less so nowadays, if I may say to my dismay. But yeah, so a lot of people in this video, Eliezer Ben Yehuda is usually the person accredited. Specifically, my personal favorite is this guy, Chaim Nachman Bialik. He is our national poet in Israel. We study a lot of his poems and short stories growing up in Israel. starting from elementary to junior high and later on in high school too. A lot of his words, he actually invented more words, introduced them into the Hebrew language than Eliezer ben Yehuda, about 600. Ben Yehuda incorporated around 300. Some of his we're still using to this day, and hopefully we'll get to them later and to some of his poems. You may know this person. She is his descendant, Mayim Bial. He is her ancestor. She knows that. When she comes to Israel, she often speaks of it. She too is a Zionist and very patriotic. I'm continuing. Please, Rabbi.
I promised Matani that I would only ask, and he's the teacher at Sinai, but, and so I'll limit myself to like two, maybe take a comment.
Maybe come here though, so people on Zoom.
Folks who are here, who took my class, either last year, this year, may remember the term, I'm just connecting dots, the term Haskalah that you mentioned, enlightenment. So in the West, i.e. France and Germany and then England, the Enlightenment took the form of not only, but more or less like, let's try to fit in to German society. Let's be respectable. Let's be nice. Let's be Frenchmen of the Mosaic persuasion. It wasn't assimilationist, but kind of more like we would say before. But in the East, in especially Russia and Poland, like you were saying, it's the comparison I would give would be like Black Pride in the 60s, where people were wearing dashikis and learning Swahili. There was a sense of, yes, we want to fit in, but we're not going to try to fit into their society. We're watching what the rest of the people are doing. They're all showing pride in Russian and pride in German. So what happened, the reason why that the revival happened was because the Russian and the Polish Jews said, you know, that's where he was from. Bialik and was from Odessa. And so that's number one. It's just it's connected to the history. The push was coming from the Russians and the Poles. The second funny thing, you know this story too, is I thought it was Ben Yehuda, but maybe it was his son, was approached by early on, 30s or something, by an orchestra in Tel Aviv and say, would you make up a word for orchestra? And he said, okay, we're going to call it Tizmoret, which means today, it's a modern word for orchestra, coming from the word zemer. And then the group in Haifa came and said, we want a word for our orchestra, but don't give us the same as theirs. So we're going to call, you're going to call Mandina, right? So there were things like that. The funny thing is, you're right, they were coming up with these neologisms, because today in Israel, you say televisia, telephone, telegram, but there are Hebrew words for these things. Washing machine, I don't know. Anyway, that's my interruption number
No,
one.
by all means, Rabbi, no interruption.
Okay.
Here's the thing.
One last thing. My name is Hebrew. And when I went to Israel, people would ask me, did you Hebrewize your name? I said, no, I'm Moshe.
I will say a lot of the words, because of slang, we're not familiar with. Many words, nothing off the top of my head right now, but many words that are equivalent to, like you said, telegram, stuff like that, will sound foreign to us. There is a word, but we will not use it. So most often than not, we will, okay, this is new here. I'm continuing. Hebrew is Semitic, Aramaic is as well, and there's Arabic. It's gendered. Important to remember that when we eventually get to conjugating anything. There's a difference between speaking I as a lone male, I as a lone female, we as a group of people, us as only males, and us as only females. I will say I kind of cut back on that as well. I will say Israelis mix that up too. Again, the goal here is to be understandable in Israel, not overcomplicate, so we'll get to it. Few examples of foreign influences, and they're all from all over the world. Arabic, German, that's from all over the world. Different continents, different mentalities as well. The people who revived it had different mentalities. And this is something that I hope to explain fuller as we go through this class, but languages have mentalities. And I've seen that very, very much growing up with English and since coming to America first time 10 years ago, there's a mentality. Yeah. So changing of time, slang, gaps. My favorite example is the medical field. Whenever I tried to talk to Kara about medical Hebrew, it's hard. It's hard because it adds like 3 steps in my brain. Okay, I need to translate this in a specific way, but it doesn't translate really well. And all of a sudden, I really don't know what the medical terms are in Hebrew all of a sudden. So I find myself going back to the dictionary. So yeah, no shame in it. Another word on it. If anyone wants a Hebrew English dictionary, I think that's a good idea. I do not have one. So yeah, I am continuing. Questions so far, by the way? Sir? Max, am I doing good? Thank you. Okay. So going back to that mentality thing. This is one of the most important slides, if not the most important slide in this lesson. A semantic field, I don't know if everyone ever heard it before. I grew to love that term. A semantic field, as we can see in the definition, the sum of all notions, concepts, and meanings that they can be conveyed in anything. It can also become subcategories. Let's say I want to talk about camping. Anything related to camping will be the semantic field about camping. For the sake of simplicity, as you can see here from the graph, the blue represents Hebrew, the red represents English. And this is exaggerated on purpose. This is not accurate. But the whole idea is to point out that some things exist in Hebrew and don't in English. Some things exist in English and don't in Hebrew. And Noam and I encounter that every day, because all of a sudden you want to be able to say something, but there's really no equivalent in English. So you need to start, okay, I need to go to use it, to go peripherally about it and lead to that subject. And sometimes we need to make concessions on what we mean because we can't fully say it in English and vice versa. And I see it all the time. And, which is why I also stick to one language at a time, Rabbi. Doing both messes up your brain because you always go back for, okay, if I'm thinking in English, translating to Hebrew, thinking in Hebrew, translating to English. Doing that every day, Noam and I encounter a lot of things we need to be creative in order to convey because there's no way to say it. So yeah. This is it. Remember, it's exaggerated. A lot does translate directly. A lot doesn't. We will get to it. This is a little bit about how the letters developed. You'd probably see it very bad there. Yeah, I'll send you the presentation through email. But the letters themselves changed forms and shapes through the years and centuries. We do have a different form of writing, cursive versus print, just like English has. And that's what I want to get to today. Quick intermittent summary. There were many stages and influence to the evolution of Hebrew. All of them left an impact on the language, whether it be on the tonality, whether it be on the spelling, whether it be on the conjugation. Some words will impact or influence in some way, some in a different. It's important to know that, so later on we won't be surprised. We just said that, and we write from the right to left. So, if there aren't any questions from Zoom, Dave Lucero and others, I do want to get to the alphabet.
No questions here.
See, got here. Okay. Thank you. So I'm gonna use my blackboard now. I am gonna do this though, so we can see it in front of us. Can we turn off maybe that light or this row? I don't want it to be sleeping atmosphere here, but
Those two and still
Like out there on the hospital.
So you do have this page on your worksheet, Dave, sir, you as well. It's supposed to be on the worksheet. Um, you'll have, which page is it, Max? Two? It's page 2 of the worksheet. You can see the arrows and how to do the letters. If you can just tell me that you have it, will be awesome.
Yeah, I've got it.
Awesome, awesome. Ben and Rebecca, I hope, I didn't see you, hello, but I hope you have it as well.
Yeah, we do.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so I'm gonna put it here so I can see it too. Let's start then. Hebrew alphabet. And here's the thing. Tonality is huge in this sense. There are words, and this is similar to Chinese in that sense. There are words that a different tone will mean something else. I'll have an example in a minute, but for now, I want to start doing it. First letter, Aleph. Just like from the Aleph bet, you have the arrows, you start with the middle line, and then the two little corners. First letter, if I were to transliterate it, would be like this. Aleph. Aleph is very basic. It will be equivalent for the most part. For the most part, it will be equivalent to A. Equivalent to A. Again, caveat, it depends on the vowels. We did not get to the vowels yet. We will soon. But very basic, it will be equivalent to the functionality of A. Bet. Oh, maybe this is not the best chart. This is what bet looks like. I'm going to add a companion next to it. And welcome to our first vowel of the lesson. This little dot in the middle of the bet is what's called a dagesh. I'm going to write it down. Dagesh. Dagesh. The reason it's there is a vowel function. What it really translates into is emphasis. Dagesh means emphasis. What happens to a bet when we emphasize it? It actually sounds like that, like a b, like a bet sound. When we don't, when it's missing, and let me know if you can't see back home, when you don't have that inside, it'll be like a V. Okay, so a V sound. Bet, vet. I'm gonna write it down below. Okay, this one functions as a V. This one functions as a B. Okay, equivalent to B, equivalent to B. Make sense? Questions so far? Let's get to Gimel. Now, here's the thing. We'll see it in some letters a lot, and some letters not at all. If there is an emphasis or a dagesh on an aleph, it does nothing. It used to, you'll see it in the Bible. There are a lot of vowels we do no longer use. We'll see them later on. But yeah, we will no longer use a dagesh on an aleph because it serves no purpose. It does in a bet. Can you all see this space? Can I write here? Sir, can you see? Gimel. And note that I'm only doing the script letters. You do have the cursive on your helper. Jason, maybe for you, you want to practice the cursive, and we will all do the script. Gimel. Looks like that. If we want to make it a J, like Jason, we will add an apostrophe. Like this, because J does not exist in Hebrew. Okay? So that's a foreign use. There's no J in Hebrew. If we want to say Jason, we will use an apostrophe. Okay? So now I'm deleting. But, so with an apostrophe, it will be equivalent to J. Without an apostrophe, it is equivalent, again, in its functionality to G. Okay, so Gimel, G. If you guys need time to write, let me know. סליחה? בבקשה.
How many of you, women or men, particularly worry about college, or so the Greek alphabet, alphabet, as you said, is, and I didn't know this until rabbinical school. Alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon, and so on and so forth. The English alphabet is A, B, C, so the C moved from the top down to the third spot. But so Hebrew is essentially the ancestor of Greek. It's cool, and all the Greeks did was they made the aleph into an actual sound, but they kept the order the same, the, and they couldn't do a, so they made it an E, and so on and so forth. But you have a chart with the history. I'll show you later. I have a chart. The Hebrew, Sanskrit, Arabic, Aramaic, and Greek are all the same family.
And here's the thing, even that video, which was long, there's a lot of history that goes into this. This was a drop in an ocean. There were a lot of heroes in this endeavor. For those of you back home, Rabbi just gave us an example from the Greek alphabet that also is A, B, G. So the third letter resembles a G. Could you hear the Rabbi on back home?
Kinda, not real clear.
Okay, well, maybe we'll repeat that soon. Can I move on and erase the blackboard? Now, here's another anecdote. Hebrew is different from English in the sense that the Aleph Bet do not have vowels on their own. So Aleph Bet Gimel, for example, will forever be consonants. All of them, all the letters will forever be consonants until we assign a vowel to it. So without vowels, I will read Aleph Bet Gimel as consonants. They carry no sound with them. They're very basic. Until we add a vowel, we will get to it. Fourth letter, Dalet. We often see this also in the Bible and Sidurs for prayer. Many a times it will be used for the Creator's name. Yeah. Nothing special in apostrophe that I can think of. It will very conveniently serve as the function of D, most usual. So Dalet. We will not see an emphasis on it usually, sometimes in biblical texts. This will be equivalent to D, functionality-wise. Next letter, the most important letter, almost, I think, we have in the alphabet, Hey. Also used many times for the Holy One's name. Usually we'll see it with an apostrophe. We will usually avoid writing it in Israel because this is the creator's name. We can only use it either in prayer or teaching. So for now, I will delete it, but hey. This one is tricky. Its functionalities are frequent. We see it a lot in most sentences. It serves as a hey, as an H. So hey, really like a hey, how are you? Functions as an H. So if we want to make hey, please, sir.
So the way you printed that is different than what's on your chart.
On the helper,
Yeah.
yeah. Thank you for saying that, actually. Here's an anecdote, which brings me to a very important point. Transliteration is tricky. Okay, I'm trying to exaggerate my transliteration so you will be able to better identify.
I think what he's saying is your script.
The script, how you wrote the letter K is different than what's on your screen that's
Yeah,
projected.
It's closer to the script of the law. There's variation.
You'll see it either like this or like that. Either with a line or like this. Either or.
There you go.
I will say, because I brought it up, transliteration is tricky. I am, sorry, sir?
So is there is there a semantic difference to writing the letter K in different manner?
No, the difference is really just on the level of a font, if
Okay,
that makes sense. I am trying to exaggerate my transliteration, so you will better read how it sounds. There are problems with transliteration. We'll see it when we get to chet, for example. I'll get to it in a second. But yeah, the difference between this and this, I can tell that when I grew up, they taught me that script hey goes like this. Usually the cursive hey will be like this. And let me see how it's looking here real quick next. Yeah, if you see number 5. Yeah. Either or, fonts are, and again, fonts may confuse us sometimes, but for the sake of the matter, hey. Any more questions about it?
I think Jason has had the same issue.
yeah, no, on this chart, I can see it,
Mhm.
Because it's more like the script versus the block.
Mhm.
Okay.
By all means, keep glancing at that.
I
That's important.
appreciate the explanation. Thank
I
you.
appreciate the question. Thank you. I will say this is not mine. I actually made one, and this I found to be better. As you can see at EKS Publishing, there was one error about it. If you can see, like 90 Sadi, I had to add an E because it was a little bit, and we have coffee stains on it. But yeah, this was better than nothing.
Would it really be Israeli without a coffee? Nescafe?
Exactly, like that.
I noticed that when I was printing them today, I was like, there's coffee.
Yeah, well, better than nothing, right?
Right.
But you know it's legit.
Happening?
Yes, ma'am.
So that discussion, you were referring to script
Mm-hmm.
where it's calling it block here, and you're referring to cursive where it says script here.
On the chart.
Shall we?
On the chart.
I think it's both. So it's-
Yeah.
He's using, an orthographic.
I know.
So this is from 86, actually. I don't know if you know, but yeah, for the sake of the matter, this is where it says script. It's really not script. I would say it's cursive. It's not script. This is maybe another error if you want to scratch it off. For the guys in home, I will say that on our Hebrew helper, it says, it's my Hebrew helper.
They call it block printing in America, but in Israel, they would call it, something else. So you're both right. It's just hard to.
Yeah, it says script on the first, above the first row. When it's where it says that, it's actually cursive, for the sake of using the same language and repetitiveness. Consistency is the word.
The let's go is what it looks like in a book, which we didn't have until the 16th century. So, you know, Don't even get me started on what it looks like in the Bible.
Sometimes the fonts confuse me too, not gonna lie, especially in letters like the next one. Zion. Sometimes you'll see it like this. Specifically, Zion is very annoying when it comes to fonts. They always change it up. They'll either give it a hunchback in the middle. But yeah, for the sake of the matter, it either looks like this or like this. I actually know it with the hunchback.
Did you mean? to skip Vav?
We did skip Vav, right? Let's do Vav then. But I'm thinking about the problems in the letters to point out. So yeah, this is good. Vav is also a tricky letter, by the way. So it'll have like a little hat here. And then a line. Note that a noon, a finally noon, which we will get to later, looks similar but longer. Keep that in mind. I'll delete it for now. Vav. Very specific. You'll either see it multiple, so Vav twice, or usually with a vowel attached to it. We did not do vowels yet, we will see it. The reason for that is because of how it behaves. Its functionality. Vav can either serve functionality as a V or a double. So let's say I want to say wow, I'll write it like this. This is a vowel, we will get to it. But if I want to say wow, I'll write it like this. Many Israelis will mix it up and just write one vowel and still mean wow. And some Israelis will read it as vow, where context comes in and where we understand what the person really meant. Questions about vow? Questions at home about vow? Let's get to Zion again.
Just to
Yes, Tyler?
clarify,
Please.
the double vav in modern Hebrew typically, yes, that's typically W.
Yeah,
Okay.
but you will see it wrongfully used as a V, as a V sound. And it's important to know that because we aim to be understood and understand. Keep that in mind. Good question. Thank you for that. Any others? If not, then I'm continuing to Zion. Again, as I said, it's an annoying one. It's an annoying because it'll either look like this or with a little hunchback. I once even saw it like this, but very exaggerated font. I don't want you to remember that. The most common versions are the hunchback and like a crooked T, let's call it. Zion, as it sounds, serves as a Z. Or even, here's another transliteration issue. I want to say Zion. I think the better way to do it is with double E, Zion. Zion. And I want to intentionally exaggerate it. English is very soft-spoken compared to Hebrew. Going back to that mentality thing. Hebrew is crass and crude. At least Israeli Hebrew, let's call it, nowadays. We're very crass and crude, and you see it in our phrasing. You see it in how much we hurry. You see it in everything. I've had a teacher teaching me accelerated English grad class. Her name was Sarah G. She lived in Israel longer than since long before I was born, but she had an accent, a very thick one of an American accent. We had to stop her at times because we didn't understand. And eventually we picked up on the accent as well, a little bit. But yeah, Zayin serves as a Z. Z. Questions about Zion?
And it's the ancestor of the Z. Why is the Z at the end of the alphabet? Oh, yeah. I think I don't know, you don't know. It's essentially the Z.
So yeah, in our version, in the Arrows version, it's really without the hunchback. You will see it with it too. Can I erase the blackboard? Did someone not finish copy? Now here's the thing. We have a few letters, and as you're probably gathering already, that repeat functions. The reason for that, as we learned from the video, the reasons are many. One of the reasons that I want to point out right now is really that we don't use a lot of the stuff that we used to. Hebrew used to sound different. And because of all of the foreign influences, nowadays it sounds the way that it sounds. One of the examples where we see it is the letter chet, the next one. I'm going to jump ahead to kaf as well, because this is the one that it repeats. If you look kaf, a line below, I'm going to use the kaf without the emphasis. Are they? Yeah. A kaf with an emphasis, for the sake of right now, is like a K. I'll get to it in a second. These two letters are supposed to sound different in ancient Hebrew. In modern Hebrew, they sound kind of the same. Kind of the same. Chet, as it sounds. And note, I will use a KH to signal chet. Many in Israel will use a ch, so a seal. I use a KH. That's how the Hebrew Academy instructs to transliterate. This is a ch. This is a ch. Getting back to it. There was once a difference between chet and chaf. Note the way that I say it. Chet, chaf. Sounds kind of the same. It didn't used to. Chet used to be a lot more ha from the throat, kind of ha, almost an H, almost. While chaf used to be ha, like more throaty, more deep, almost like a lower octave. Nowadays, the difference between them will only be seen in either older Yemenites, older Moroccans. I will say that as we learned, when they revived the Hebrew language, they used the Sephardic pronunciation, because the Sephardic one kept the rolling R's, it kept the differences between chet and chaf. You will hear these when speaking to a Mizrahi in Israel, or at least a more Mizrahi than I. But in terms of functionality, nowadays, we will see, they will most likely sound the same. The spelling will be different. We will use this for more throaty words. We will use this for lighter stuff. Okay, but for the sake of the matter, it will all sound bad, like almost like the Dutch G. Groningen. I once went to Amsterdam, and yeah, this girl told me, "Oh, Hebrew, you have the same G as we do." What do you mean? What do you mean G? We don't have a G. There's no G in Hebrew. So the Groningen, you call that a G? But yeah, so chet. Am I forgetting something about it? Our rabbi's name actually has both, by the way. Rabbi's name is Kach Lo. Sorry, I didn't calculate my space enough, but Kach Lo. and emphasis. This is how you write the rabbi's last name. Kach. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I wrote it down, Rabbi. Kach.
Oh, I see a cough over there.
Yeah, Kachlon. Kachlon, sorry, Kachlon. Kachlon. Kachlon, sorry, that's my uncle. Yeah, Kachlon, for example, that's the last name. You'll see it like that. Sorry, mixed up the rabbi's name. Rabbi's name is this. Kachlon. Kachlon. We'll get to the P. And as you can see here, the Chaf has an emphasis, so it's a Ka to the form. Continuing on. Any questions about the difference between Chet and Kaf? And Chaf? Yes. Yes. So we have Chet, Chaf, and when you add the emphasis, it becomes Kaf. Its functionality will be like a K.
Thank you.
Questions? I'm continuing. So we had Chet, now leave Kaf and Chaf. The next letter, by the alphabetical order, is Pet. Another specific one. Another very specific one. And to that, I will add a companion called Taf. Taf is the last Hebrew letter, barring the Phoenicians. It's the second row from the bottom in the middle, if you can see Taf. Tet and Taf are another similar example to Chet and Chaf. Let's write it down. Sorry. Tet and Taf. Another good example for foreign influence or stuff that we lost over the years. Tet used to be a lot lighter. Actually, the people who kept it the best are the Yemenites. I don't even have how to say it. It's really light. Usually we'll see it when we have foreign words like telephone, telegram. Those will be with a tet, usually. Taf will be for the Hebrew letters. But here's the thing. In terms of how they sound the same. Noam and I will not distinguish a difference between them unless speaking to a Yemeni Jew. So they both serve as a T. Okay, they act like a T. Now we don't have a TH, a the. We don't have that. If we want to have a the, which really doesn't exist in Hebrew, we usually don't. But if you want to add that, you just add an apostrophe. We will not use an emphasis on taf or tet. There is no way to make them more throaty other than yelling. So there is no emphasis on them. An apostrophe is for them. Keep in mind, it does not exist in Hebrew. Questions so far while I take out another chalk? Questions from back home? Sounds to be, we're doing good so far. Continuing on. So we have tet and taf serving annoyingly as the same. We have chet and chaf interchangeably serving as the same, and kaf with the emphasis. May I erase the blackboard? Any objections? Our next letter is my favorite, also sometimes used as the Holy One's name. You will see it in the Bible texts also as his name. I'm talking about Yud. Yud or Yod, Sometimes you hear it in Hebrew. It's small. I don't know if everyone can see it. I'll do it here too. This is not to mix up with resh in the bottom or third row from the right, the bottom. This is not to confuse with resh. This is small. A resh next to it will look like this. So for example, there's a word that has both. For example, Jerusalem, Yerushalayim. I will write it like this. Yerushalayim. This is Yud, this is a Resh. A Yud maybe the double O, Yud serves as a Y for the most part. You will see it used as an I. We will have examples. But for the sake of the matter, it serves as a Y. Here, alongside this vowel that we will learn next lesson, it says Ye. Yerushalayim. Sorry, this is Yerushalayim. And we're already seeing a lot of vowels in front of us. Segol, Shuruk, Patach, Kamatz. We will get to all of those next week. Remember that alone, words are letters are consonants. We also see it with an apostrophe as the Holy One's name in the Bible many times. Sometimes we'll see it as a W. I know in the Sephardic ones, many a times they'll use a W for the Creator's name. Any questions? Questions, Max? And then we have Chaf, we spoke about Chaf, and then Lamed. We have Lamed here. I'll write it below. Lamed. And if you can probably gather by now that the name of the words, the name of the letters, sounds like how it sounds. So Lamed is equivalent to L. It's even a word. Lamed is a word, but we'll get to it. So this is equivalent to an L. And we have it right here, Yerushalayim. Next letter, unless we have any questions. And forgive me for rushing through these letters. I do want to say in our worksheet, there's a segment here to practice writing. I noticed when teaching this class to my son Max here, I'm trying it out, that if I don't have him write it down, next time I quiz him, for example, I point out a letter. Which letter is that? Oh, I don't remember. So a lot of the writing it down is to remember it, okay, to imprint it on your memory. You have the order here in the first exercise, and seeing how this is really the first lesson, the worksheet is really small. The next ones will be more annoying. I will say you don't have to do them, but I highly recommend that you do. Even this is not enough. I will talk about this later at the end, but the whole reason that I want you to watch movies, series, listen to music, is because tonality. Sorry, you had a question, Rick?
Good idea.
Tonality is crucial. If I were you, I'd talk to Noam every day, because Noam's English is Hebrew. He speaks Hebrew the way you speak Hebrew. I lost it. I don't have it anymore. I need to try to sound Israeli. I need to try. But in that sense, you can hear how he reads it, how he means it. It's a window into his Hebrew. There are many tools online. Hebrew Pod 101, which is free. Please use everything. This class is not enough. Use everything. Next letter, unless someone has a question. Questions at home? Awesome. So, next letter, the first letter of my name, Mem. First letter of your name, Max. Mem, this is what it looks like. Fonts, usually you'll see it, sometimes you'll see it like this. Sometimes like this, with like a little tail in front. For the sake of the matter, like a little hamster with a tail, I like to call it. Mem. Mem is a very convenient letter. It translates most usually, very easily into N. None of these take an emphasis. Nothing happens if I add an emphasis here, or here, or here. Nothing happens. You will see it in the biblical texts because it's used to serve a function. Mem. And just for the sake of the matter, let's write down my name. Ma. We have Mem, we have the Taf, Nun, which we didn't do yet, and Yud. In the vowels, which we'll get to next lesson. Ma, Ta, Mi. That's how I say my name. And I've had to correct many, many, many people since coming here. But also in Israel. Also in Israel. And I hope you can hear that it's really, in English, the vowels are way more round. O, A, U. In Hebrew, the vowels are really Ma, A, E, U. Very similar to Latin, very similar to Italian. Ma, Ta, Mi. Questions so far? Continuing on. Noon. Important letter used almost every word. Noon.
No, it's actually 8:15.
Sorry?
It's actually 8:15.
Nice, nice one. How are we on time? Yeah, we have about 15 minutes. Okay, I'll do noon in another letter. Then I want to talk a little bit about logistics. Noon and Mem, actually, I forgot about the Mem, yeah. Let's put that.
Matani,
Yes, sir.
again, you're writing it different than what's. What,
Yeah, I'm getting it.
You mean on the arrows picture or this?
Oh.
But you know, that's because of Ethel, because she.
On the line that says 40?
Of the book. She used a very, you're both right.
So here's the thing, if I may show you yours. So as you can see, this says book print, which usually how you see it in Torah scrolls, this font, it's called the David font.
There's the block print.
And then there's a block, I don't know why, again, this is not mine, I don't know why they decided to call it like that, but for the sake of clearing that out right now. I will call this print, I will call this. For the sake of the matter, these two are the same, okay? These two are the same. The only thing different is really just the font.
What you wrote up there. In terms of the.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The bold print is what we see. Okay, all right.
Yeah, it's actually pretty nice. It's not, so here's the thing, this is actually good. If all of you wanna maybe extend the little tail on the new, it's supposed to be long. It is supposed to.
Is it? Okay.
And it can be shorter in the sense of this, but it won't be,
Where there's a difference, it's confusing.
yeah, it won't be like this though. It won't be like this. So the bottom tail will be longer. Just to remove any doubts.
More like on the
Yeah.
sheet.
More like on the sheet.
Thank you.
Did you get that at home? I was referring to our Hebrew helper. For some reason on the top, it says book, print, block, and script. For the sake of our discussion, book, print, and block are the same. And where it says script is cursive. Does that make sense? Dave, Lucero, Ben, and Rebecca, whoever can hear me?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, thank you very much. Noon and Mem have finale versions. What is a finale? A letter that changes its form at the end of a letter, at the end of a word or sentence, okay? We just learned about Mem. And you do have the finale versions on your helpers and on the one with the arrows. Yeah. When it's at the end of a letter, it'll look like this. Like we had Yerushalayim just a minute ago. Yerushalayim. This is a mem. Finale mem.
How do you spell finally?
I spell it F-I-N-I-L-I-E.
You would hear they used to say final.
Final mem, whatever.
Final man, final. man.
Either or. Final mem. So we see it in the word Jerusalem. We see it in the word noon, in the how it sounds. So if I am to continue its name in Hebrew, okay, the letter, the name will be this. Noon. So finally noon will look like this. Let's see how it looks in your versions. Yeah. So if you can see in the script, they forego with a little tail. And in the cursive, they forego with a little tail. And the other versions, it will have like a little helmet thing. Sorry, sir?
So these final versions, this is what's called soffit,
I don't know what that
like
means.
metal soffit?
Oh, sofit, yeah. So in Hebrew, we will call it sofit. Let's write it down just for the sake of matter. Here. Sofit. I will transliterate it as with a double E, especially to emphasize it. But sofit, let's say mem, sofit, final mem. Noon, sofit, final noon.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, it'll have a little bit of a hat here, a small one like the Yud and the Vav. Questions so far? Repeating, final mem, final noon. There are other final versions of other letters. We will get to it. Please.
So when you final mem, that's in the last one.
And
Yeah.
a word.
And word, both.
Yeah.
Let's write a word. Let's write mayim, like mayim bialik. Mayim means water. Okay. Mem, yud, final, mem or mem sofit. And transliteration, it will be mayim. We can see starting mem, finally mem, final mem, mem sofit. Mayim, water. Water, mayim. Okay, so I think it's best if I stop here. We're almost through with it, and the next class is dedicated for the rest of the alphabet and vowels. I do want to point out a few things before we finish. I have about 10 minutes left, and I saved it for this. And I'm gonna share my screen again. I have a few versions here of movies and series I would encourage you to watch today, tomorrow, sometime in life. These are movies that are handpicked by Kara and I. This is called Maktub, wonderful movie from 2017. I can even send you all the IMDb pages if you want to, I will. This is a series that's on Netflix. Both this and Maktub are on Netflix for free, whoever has it. Hashoter Hatov, sitcom. Did you ask something? This is a sitcom. You get the best of Hebrew slang, of Hebrew comedy. Kara loved this one and Maktub.
You said that's on Netflix?
It is. This one is my favorite Israeli movie, The Ballad of the Weeping Spring. It takes place in around the 70s, 80s, 60s. I don't remember right off the top of my head. You hear older Israeli Hebrew here. You hear the different accents. And here's the thing, the different scenarios, the places in Israel, the professions, the names of people, how they interact with each other. That adds a realm of communication that we cannot learn here. A lot of Hebrew is, how do I sound when I talk to you? A lot of Hebrew is tone of voice. A lot of it is context. What is happening right now? And why am I reacting to it? Usually in an angry way. The Ballad of the Weeping Spring. It's a gem, I do believe. Please watch it. Beaufort. Sorry?
What was that last one found? Ballad of the Weeping Spring?
2012.
No,
So what platform is it? It says here Prime Video. Here's the thing. Some of these you may need to either rent or get. Whatever I have at home, I will bring here for use. I want to provide you with options. So yeah, this one is on Prime Video, I think, yeah. Beaufort, also Prime Video. My Beaufort is a base, a forward military base that was in Lebanon. Both my parents served in it. It's kind of an anti-war movie. It was Israel's induction to the foreign Oscars in 2008, I think. It shows what we go through as soldiers and how much it sucks, to be honest. So this follows an officer, 22-year-old, who's in charge of a base with 60 to 100 soldiers inside Lebanon in wartime, and they're being hit by rockets every day. And he's 22 and in charge of it. Sorry? Wow. I have music too. I do want to touch real quick on Kahoot. We did not get to do it today, hopefully later in classes. Does someone not know what this is? Raising him. Okay. Kahoot is a trivia platform that we can all access. What I do is I build questions here on my own. And then what happens is we project it on the screen. We have a code for our session. You can log in from your phone. And then it's like a competition, a trivia competition. Like Jeopardy, exactly. So yeah, we will do that. I have a roster with all the emails and phone numbers. I will email you all both the IMDb links for these movies and series, music. I cannot stress this enough. Watch them, listen to them, watch them, listen to them as much as you can. The tonality, catching how it sounds. Once you do, your Hebrew learning will jump ahead miles. It's more important than most grammar rules. And just to emphasize it, I want to tell you how I learned my English. English was always there for me. In Israel, first grades, you're 6, we start learning reading and writing Hebrew, like that. So you just pages upon pages, Aleph, Bet, Gimel, all the vowels, which is crucial. It's crucial because later on we can just look at it without the vowels and we know. We don't use the vowels day to day. You will not see vowels when going to the airport, when going to shops. You'll probably see them when going to the Orthodox neighborhoods. So
What about like fast food?
you won't see it. You'll see the print version. So these are the letters you'll see on menus and stuff like that. But we remember the words by heart. And I want to encourage you to do the same. And we will build a vocabulary through this. Of course, starting with the alphabet. But to get back to my story, yeah, we learned reading and writing Hebrew in first grade. And I hated Teletubbies and all of the kids' shows. And my mom sat me, both my parents worked. She sat me in front of the Hallmark channel. I'm not kidding. I watched Hallmark channel every day, and I would challenge myself to read the subtitles before they change or disappear. And before I noticed it, I just didn't need them anymore. And add to that, I played video games later on, and yeah. So that's how I mastered my English, and it was always there for me. It was always there. I heard English every day. You need to hear Hebrew every day. I will do my best to send you cool videos, stuff that I find. Please, for the love of God, watch the movies, listen to the music, watch the series. There's an immersion factor that we will never achieve from 1.5 hours a week. There has to be immersion to some extent. That's been today so far. If anyone has questions, please keep your Hebrew helpers and worksheets. If anyone loses them, let me know. I'll get you a different one. Back home, Dave Lucero, I know I need to give you your hard copies. Who else? Georgia Young, I need to get you a hard copy. Ben and Rebecca, I gave you yours today. Yes, sir, you want to say something? Guess not. So yeah, we started the alphabet today. Remember, there's a lot of influences to the Hebrew language, a lot of foreign remnants that we see either on the spelling, conjugation, vowels, and whatever. It's important to keep that in mind so we won't be caught by surprise later on when we see irregulars. Remember, a chair is an irregular. It came from Aramaic. It conjugates different than the other verbs. That's about it. Yes, Jason.
So we're recording this and it'll be on the Mount Sinai Tech YouTube channel. That way you can go back and look at the lesson and you know, advance to whatever part you want to review between the sessions. Or any other.
Thank you. Thank you very much. If anyone has questions, I'm still here. I need to put the class, the tables and stuff back. Sorry, sir.
I'm sorry, I did not get an application. You have an application?
For the class registration. So you just need to email the.
We kind of already knew that you were registering because you started the process on PayPal. It's like, oh, just gonna take the class, but yeah.
There's no form.
There's
It's
no
just an
form or
email to
anything
the
like that,
office.
but I've already got you registered.
You're in.
You're in, sir.
Sorry, Joe.
Thank you very much, sir.
Do I-
Yes, sir.
Okay, now, I never noticed,
Sorry, I'll come closer.
I never realized,
And I'm walking you back.
And you have a problem.
That choices. Peanut butter and brie. Okay.
On Sunday, oh my gosh.
We're not gonna end the recording unless.
So I don't. Oh, why, thank you.